There are some aches that medicine can't reach. You go from doctor to doctor, test after test, and everything comes back normal. But deep down, something still feels off. The fatigue is real. The tension is constant. The discomfort lingers. And in the quiet moments when the world has paused and you're finally alone with yourself, a quiet question arises. What if this isn't just physical? What if your body is trying to tell you something your mind hasn't yet heard? In the teachings of the Buddha, the body is not just flesh, it is a mirror, a living reflection of your karma, your choices, your emotions, and the energy you've carried across lifetimes. In Buddhism, we don't see illness or discomfort as punishment. We see it as a message, a sacred whisper from the soul, pointing to where healing is needed, not just with herbs or rest, but through understanding, through awareness, through truth. Today we're diving into the deep, often unseen language of the body, the way karma doesn't just echo through our lives, but through our skin, our spine, our breath, our bones. And I promise you, once you understand this connection, you'll never look at your body the same way again. So stay with me. Don't skip a part of this video. Every section is a piece of the puzzle. And if something resonates, if you find even one truth that brings clarity or peace, then there's one simple, free way you can support this journey we're building together. Just tap the subscribe button, that's all. It helps us grow, it helps spread these teachings, and most importantly, it helps others who are quietly carrying the same questions you are. Let's walk this path together, not just to understand the body, but to awaken the soul within it. There's something exhausting about always needing to be the one who has it all figured out. You carry the pressure to think quickly, respond wisely, know the answers, and stay in control. And it's not always loud or obvious, it's that subtle hum in the background. The overthinking before bed, the mental replay of conversations, the way your forehead feels tight, even when you're resting. And then one day, the headaches begin, or the dizziness, or that strange tension behind your eyes that no amount of sleep can ease. You try water, rest, medication, maybe even silence, but the discomfort doesn't leave. And in Buddhist philosophy, this isn't something to ignore or fix with a quick remedy. It's something to listen to with care. The Buddha often taught that the mind and body are deeply intertwined, not just in how they affect each other today, but in how the echoes of our past thoughts and actions shape our current experience. When the head starts to ache or spin, it isn't just about stress. It may be karma, subtle, accumulated energy stored from choices long forgotten. Not as punishment, but as a message. A gentle signal that the mind has become too loud, too proud, or too full, that the ego has taken the wheel for too long. You see, the head is where we hold our identity, our sense of self, our pride, our intellect. It's where we tell ourselves stories about who we are, what we know, and how things should be. But when those stories become rigid, when we cling too tightly to being right or feel the need to prove ourselves constantly, the energy gets stuck. The forehead tenses, the temples throb, the crown feels heavy. This is what Buddhism points to when it speaks of misused intellect and karmic pride. Not the kind of pride that celebrates life, but the kind that blocks wisdom with certainty. And it's not just about arrogance in the obvious sense. Sometimes it's the quiet kind, the belief that we always have to figure everything out on our own, that we must carry every thought to its conclusion, solve every problem before it begins, and never admit we're lost. This overdependence on logic, while ignoring intuition or heart wisdom, creates conflict inside. The mind wants to lead, but the soul wants to soften. And when these two parts of us pull in different directions, the body reflects the struggle. Sometimes when we feel that familiar lump in our throat or struggle to say what's really on our hearts, it's more than just stress or a bad day. It's a signal. not just from the body, but from something deeper. There's a kind of silence we carry, not because we want to be quiet, but because somewhere along the way, we learned it wasn't safe to speak. We swallowed truths. We held back tears. We told half stories. And while the mind may try to forget, the body doesn't. The throat remembers. In Buddhism, the energy of speech, our intentional use of words, is seen as one of the most sacred powers we hold. It's not just about what we say, but how honestly we live in alignment with our inner truth. The Buddha spoke often about right speech, a path of communication that is rooted in truth, kindness, and intention. It's not just about avoiding lies or harsh words, it's about being deeply aware of how our voice reflects the state of our heart. When we lie to protect an image, when we speak carelessly to impress, or when we keep our pain buried to avoid conflict, the throat chakra, this spiritual center of truth and expression, begins to contract. And it doesn't just show up as emotional tension, it shows up as physical symptoms too. Sore throats that never seem to go away, a tightness when trying to speak, even sudden loss of voice when emotions rise. These are not just random symptoms, they are karmic imprints surfacing, and it goes even deeper than dishonesty with others. The most dangerous kind of silence is the one we practice with ourselves. We deny what we really feel. We push away the words that might reveal our vulnerability. We pretend we're okay just to keep the peace. But in Buddhism, peace isn't built on suppression, it's built on truth. Inner peace arises when we stop betraying ourselves in small, quiet ways, when we stop holding back the very words that could heal us. When the throat is blocked, we aren't just struggling to speak, we're struggling to live in our truth. And that disconnection spreads. It creates anxiety, restlessness, and a sense of being stuck in life. So how do we begin to heal? The first step is gentle honesty, not dramatic declarations or confrontations, just a return to truth. Speak to yourself with clarity and love. Admit what you feel, even if you can't yet say it out loud to anyone else. You can start by writing, not for anyone to read, just to release the pressure. Let the words flow without judgment. This is a sacred practice. It is the first step in restoring balance. It's how we start untying the knot in our throat, word by word. Chanting can also be deeply powerful. In many Buddhist traditions, sacred mantras are used to purify the energy of the throat and bring it back into alignment. When we chant mindfully, we aren't just making sounds, we're inviting energy to move again. We're allowing blocked emotions to be transformed through vibration. You don't have to be a singer. Your voice doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be yours, raw, honest, alive. There's a particular kind of heaviness that doesn't show up on scans. It sits right in the center of your chest, tight, dull, or sometimes sharp and sudden. You might feel it when you're lying awake at night, or walking through a memory you thought you'd already let go of. And even when life looks fine on the surface, your chest keeps reminding you that something deeper is still unsettled. You breathe, but it doesn't feel full. You smile, but something aches underneath. That's not just stress or fatigue. According to Buddhist wisdom, that's the heart, speaking in the only language it knows, sensation. In the teachings of the Buddha, the heart is more than just an organ. It's the temple of compassion, the seat of emotional memory, and the center of loving kindness. And like any temple, when it becomes neglected or burdened, the energy inside begins to shift. Physical signs like chest tightness, heart palpitations, or even shallow breathing can often reflect something much more spiritual than we realize. It's the emotional karma we've stored over years or even lifetimes. The betrayals we never fully processed, the grief we tried to move past too quickly, the love we withheld, or the moments when love was withheld from us. All of it settles in the heart. One of the most powerful Buddhist truths is that the mind forgets, but the body remembers. And the heart remembers especially well, not just in words, but in energy. The heartbreak you experienced a decade ago, the time you shut down to protect yourself, the person you never forgave, the version of yourself you stopped being kind to. It doesn't just disappear with time, it embeds itself into the way your heart beats, the way your chest expands, the way you feel when you think about love, loss, and connection. But here's the part that brings hope. In Buddhism, pain is never a dead end. It's a path. The heart doesn't tighten to punish you, it tightens to wake you up. It's saying, there's something here that needs your attention, something that needs to be forgiven, released, embraced. Healing the heart doesn't mean erasing the past, it means softening to it, creating space around it, and most of all, allowing yourself to feel without rushing to fix. Because sometimes the only way out of pain is through it, with compassion as your guide. One of the most healing practices you can bring into your life is metta bhavana, the Buddhist practice of loving-kindness meditation. It begins simply, sitting quietly, breathing deeply, and silently offering phrases of goodwill. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. And then offering the same to others, even those who have hurt you, especially those who have hurt you. Not because what they did was okay, but because you are choosing not to carry their shadow in your heart anymore. That's real strength. That's karmic release. There's something strange about the way we handle discomfort in the stomach. We blame it on what we ate, how fast we ate it, or maybe the stress from work. And while those are certainly factors, there's often something deeper hiding beneath the surface, something that can't be solved by antacids or a change in diet alone. According to Buddhist philosophy, the body doesn't just digest food, it digests emotion, experience, memory, and energy. And the stomach, it's the place where our emotional digestion happens. When life feels overwhelming, uncertain, or completely out of our control, that energy often lands right in the gut. Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, and nowhere is this more evident than in our need to control outcomes. We want things to go a certain way, we plan, we predict, we overthink. But life doesn't always cooperate. And when that unpredictability collides with our expectations, anxiety rises. That anxiety doesn't just stay in the mind, it travels down into the body, often settling in the stomach like a heavy knot. You may feel bloated for no reason. You may feel tension even when you haven't eaten. That's not just digestion, that's the karma of emotional resistance. When we try to grip life too tightly, our body responds with contraction. You might not realize how much fear you're holding until you try to slow down. Sometimes we rush not because we're in a hurry, but because stillness feels unsafe. The stomach reacts to this constant state of motion. It becomes the container for all the things we never took time to feel. The disappointments we swallowed, the losses we didn't grieve, the outcomes we couldn't control. All of it piles up, and eventually, the body says, enough. That discomfort becomes a message. Let go. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness is more than a meditation. It's a way of meeting each moment with full presence, and that presence extends to how we eat, how we breathe, and how we process life. When you sit down to eat, are you really there? Or are you scrolling, thinking, rushing? The Buddha often spoke of eating as a sacred act, one that not only nourishes the body, but also the mind. Mindful eating isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. Taking the time to chew slowly, breathe deeply, and feel gratitude can change everything. It turns a meal into meditation. But the healing goes beyond the plate. Emotional digestion requires honesty. It means letting yourself feel what you've been avoiding. Fear of failure, fear of letting go, fear of not being in control. These emotions are not weaknesses. They are human experiences. And when we meet them with kindness, they move through us. When we resist them, they stay stuck. The stomach reflects this truth. When you feel tightness or unease, pause. Ask yourself, what am I clinging to right now? The answer might surprise you. Some emotions don't fade, they ferment. Anger is one of them. We think we've moved on, we tell ourselves we've let go, but deep inside, there's still that heat, that old resentment, that moment we never really processed, only buried. And while our mind forgets, the body remembers. In the teachings of the Buddha, we learn that suppressed emotions, especially anger, are not harmless. They are karmic seeds that ripen in our physical form. One of the most overlooked places this shows up is in the liver. In Buddhist thought, the liver isn't just an organ that processes toxins. It's the spiritual reservoir of anger, frustration, and unresolved resentment. When these emotions are carried too long without being acknowledged or released, they can create disturbances in this vital energy center. You might not connect it at first. You may just feel more irritable than usual, or your body runs hot, you get inflamed easily. Your temper flares without much provocation. Maybe you notice recurring issues like hormonal imbalances, skin flare-ups, or digestive agitation. What if these aren't just random symptoms? What if they're signs that the inner fire has been burning too long? Anger, when ignored or justified over and over, becomes poison, not just to the people around us, but to ourselves. And the irony is that most of the time, the person who hurt us has already forgotten. They moved on, but we unknowingly carry the weight of what was never resolved. Buddhism teaches us that true freedom doesn't come from getting justice or hearing the apology we never received. It comes from the deep, compassionate act of releasing the energy for our own sake, because we deserve peace, not because they earned it, but because we're ready to stop feeding a fire that's only burning us. The Buddha never said not to feel anger. In fact, he acknowledged that it arises naturally, but he warned us about clinging to it. Holding on to anger, he said, is like picking up a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. That's what makes liver energy in Buddhist philosophy so crucial. It's not just about what the body is doing, it's about what the soul is still holding on to. So how do we heal it? Not through force, not through pretending, but by slowly softening. Start by becoming aware of the anger, not as an enemy, but as an old friend who's been waiting to be heard. Sit with it. Name it. If you're ready, write a letter you don't intend to send. Journal about what still hurts. And most powerfully, send love. It may feel impossible at first, but even the attempt shifts the energy. Try reciting a loving kindness mantra, something as simple as, "May I be free, may they be free." Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. There's a kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. It's the kind that creeps in quietly, even after 8 hours of rest. You might call it burnout, or just being overwhelmed. But beneath the surface, it's something deeper, something ancient. In Buddhism, we're taught that fear doesn't only live in the mind, it makes a home in the body. And for many of us, that home is the kidneys. The kidneys are more than organs that filter blood. They're energetic centers linked to your sense of safety, stability, and survival. According to Buddhist understanding, they carry the karmic imprints of fear, especially fear that's been carried for a long time, or even passed down generationally. Maybe you grew up in survival mode. Maybe you've always had to be the strong one, the one who keeps it all together. You've been bracing for impact for so long you don't even notice the tension anymore. But your body does, your kidneys do. Fatigue, adrenal burnout, a heaviness that rests deep inside you. These aren't just physical symptoms, they're signals. Messages from your inner world saying, "I don't feel safe." And not just safe in the physical sense, but emotionally, spiritually. Safe to rest, safe to trust, safe to exist without always being on alert. This kind of fear doesn't need a crisis to flare up. It lives quietly, hiding behind busyness, perfectionism, and constant doing. The Buddha taught that freedom from fear is possible, not by controlling the world around us, but by understanding the world within us. That means looking gently at the places where fear still holds us hostage. And the kidneys, according to Buddhist healing, are often where that fear settles. It's the fear of being left behind, the fear of not being enough, the fear of loss, and sometimes the fear of truly being seen. All of it begins to pile up until your body starts whispering, "Please slow down." And here's the truth: your body doesn't want you to suffer, it wants you to awaken. The fatigue isn't a punishment, it's a plea, a request to stop surviving and start living, to come back to the present moment where real safety exists, because when you're rooted in the present, you're not stuck in the regrets of yesterday or the unknowns of tomorrow. You're just here, breathing, alive, whole. And if you've lived most of your life on edge, it might feel unnatural to slow down. That's okay. Go gently. Healing is not a race. Buddhist teachings remind us that we're always on the path, even when we feel lost. Each moment of stillness is a step toward trust. Each breath taken in peace is an offering to your kidneys saying, "You don't have to fight anymore. You are home." Sometimes the deepest wounds don't leave visible scars. You might look perfectly fine to the outside world, going through your routine, speaking with a smile, doing what's expected. But inside there's a kind of quiet disconnect, a sense that something sacred within you has been dimmed, or worse, misunderstood. And often that disconnection shows up in the most intimate parts of your being, where love, vulnerability, and creation begin. In Buddhist philosophy, these aren't just physical spaces. They are energetic centers, places where karma settles not just from this life, but from many lives. And when that energy is wounded, the body speaks in subtle but profound ways. In the teachings of the Buddha, sexuality and creativity are not shameful. They are sacred forces, direct channels to life itself. Yet, in the modern world, we're often taught the opposite. We're taught to feel guilt for desire, shame for our bodies, and confusion about intimacy. And when love becomes tangled with control, when trust is violated, when pleasure turns into secrecy or fear, the body doesn't just forget. It records, it stores, it speaks. Not always in ways we immediately recognize, but in disconnection, numbness, dysfunction, or even a refusal to be touched emotionally or physically. These symptoms aren't random. They are echoes of energy that has been misused, blocked, or dishonored. In Buddhism, karma is not only about action, it's about intention. If the intention around our intimate energy has been tainted by manipulation, shame, trauma, or guilt, then the karma left behind can cling to the reproductive organs like a heavy fog. This doesn't mean we are broken. It means a part of us is waiting to be seen again, not as something to fix, but as something to heal through understanding, compassion, and reverence. True healing in this area isn't about function in the clinical sense. It's about restoring wholeness. It's about realizing that your body is not wrong, that your desire for connection is not sinful, that your creativity, whether it's expressed in art, love, parenting, or simple moments of joy, is a spiritual force. Buddhism teaches us that energy flows where awareness goes. So we begin by bringing our awareness without judgment back to this center. We notice the patterns we've inherited, whether through culture, religion, or past relationships, and we gently start to release what no longer serves. This may mean meditating on the sacral chakra, or visualizing a golden light bathing the reproductive organs with warmth and compassion. It may mean journaling about past wounds, acknowledging what was taken from you, and consciously choosing to reclaim that space. Or it may simply mean being with yourself in stillness, offering kindness to the parts of your body that you've ignored, feared, or felt ashamed of. The Buddha never taught us to reject the body. He taught us to understand it, and part of that understanding means seeing intimacy as sacred, not taboo. Some people wear strength like armor, always showing up, always saying yes, always holding everything together for everyone else. But inside they're exhausted, not just mentally, not just emotionally, but physically. Their back hurts, their shoulders feel tight, their spine aches. It's the kind of weight that doesn't come from lifting heavy things, but from carrying too many expectations, often not even their own. And this isn't weakness. In fact, it often shows up in the strongest people, the ones who feel they don't have permission to rest. But in Buddhist teachings, this isn't seen as noble suffering. It's seen as a quiet form of self-neglect, a karmic pattern of overburdening that calls for compassionate correction. The spine, according to Buddhist wisdom, isn't just a structure of bones and nerves. It is a sacred pillar, our inner alignment, the core of our energetic and spiritual integrity. When the spine begins to suffer, when pain starts to creep in, it's often more than bad posture or a soft mattress. It's a signal, a message from within that you've strayed from your truth, that you've been bending not because you're flexible, but because you're carrying what's not yours to hold. This is the karma of martyrdom, of believing you must be everything to everyone, even if it means losing yourself in the process. Buddha's path is one of the middle way, a life lived in balance, neither indulgence nor deprivation. But those of us who carry too much often fall into the trap of self-sacrifice, confusing it with kindness or duty. And the body responds, not with judgment, but with signals. The spine, when it starts to buckle, is not punishing you. It's trying to remind you to return to your center, to your own alignment, to say, this is enough, I need space, I need rest. That kind of boundary isn't selfish, it's sacred. You see, karma doesn't just play out through dramatic events or big choices. It unfolds through the small daily decisions, like saying yes when your whole being is asking you to say no, like helping others out of guilt instead of genuine love, like holding silence when your truth wants to be spoken. These small misalignments gather, and the spine, your central channel of support, feels the weight of them all. Pain becomes the body's way of asking, when will you begin to support yourself? Healing in this case is not about finding the perfect chiropractor or stretching until the tension disappears. It's about reclaiming your center, reclaiming your right to rest, to breathe, to live without proving your worth through over-effort. The Buddha never taught us to abandon ourselves for the sake of others. He taught presence, he taught compassion, not just outwardly, but inwardly. And if your back is aching under the weight of everything you've said yes to, then it may be time to bow, not from burden, but from self-honoring. Sometimes we don't even notice how heavy our steps have become. It starts subtly. Maybe your legs feel tired by the afternoon, or there's a strange numbness in your feet. You might write it off as poor circulation, stress, or just getting older. But what if there's more to it than that? What if your legs and feet, the very parts of you that are meant to move you forward, are holding the weight of hesitation, fear, or unmade decisions? In the teachings of the Buddha, the body is never random. Every part of you is connected to your inner state. Your physical movement is a reflection of your spiritual direction. Our legs and feet are symbols of movement and progress. They are the foundation that allows us to stand in our truth and walk our path. But what happens when we've been standing still for too long? What happens when we're afraid to take that next step into a new chapter, a new version of ourselves, or a new way of being? That fear doesn't just live in the mind. It sinks down into the body. It shows up in stiffness, swelling, heaviness. Your body begins to mirror the spiritual pause you've been sitting in. Buddhism teaches us that avoidance is a form of suffering. When we resist change, when we hold back from our purpose, we create a subtle form of internal resistance. And resistance becomes energy. Stagnant energy, when unacknowledged, becomes physical. The legs may ache, not because they are weak, but because they are burdened by potential left unused. The feet may feel unsteady, not because of poor balance, but because your soul is unsure where to go next. The body in this way doesn't betray you, it becomes your guide. It's also common for people who feel stuck in life to experience issues with their lower body. Maybe it's fear of failure, maybe it's fear of success, or maybe it's that nagging thought, what if I choose the wrong direction? And so we wait. But Buddha reminded us that the path is made by walking it. Clarity doesn't come before the journey, it comes through it. We don't have to know exactly where we're going to take the first step. Even a small mindful action toward growth can shift everything. If you're noticing these symptoms, it may be time to ask yourself, what are you avoiding? What decision have you postponed? What direction have you been afraid to explore? Your legs are calling for movement. Not rushed, chaotic movement, but conscious, deliberate, intentional steps forward. Begin small. Even choosing to walk with mindfulness, to feel your feet grounding into the earth, can be a sacred act of realignment. In Buddhism, every step is part of the path. Whether it's fast or slow, straight or winding, it still carries you closer to awakening. There are days when you look at yourself in the mirror and something feels off, not just on the surface, but in how you see yourself. Maybe your vision feels blurry, or your skin is flaring up without a clear reason. You try new creams, switch your diet, visit specialists, but the discomfort returns. It's frustrating, confusing. But what if the issue isn't just in your body? What if your skin and your eyes are trying to show you something your inner self is struggling to accept? In Buddhism, we're taught that the body is not simply a shell, it's a sacred expression of consciousness. And when the soul is unsettled, it often reveals itself through the very things we try to cover up or ignore. The Buddha once said that the mind is everything, what you think, you become. And how we perceive ourselves, how we view our place in the world, is deeply tied to how our body responds. Your eyes aren't just organs for sight. They are windows into how clearly or harshly you see your life, your truth, your worth. When your vision becomes cloudy, or you struggle to make eye contact, ask yourself, what part of my truth am I refusing to see? What am I avoiding? Sometimes it's not about what's in front of you. It's about what's inside you, old shame, self-judgment, a refusal to accept who you are now versus who you think you should be. And then there's the skin. Sensitive, reactive, vulnerable. It's our physical boundary between self and world. When your skin breaks out, becomes inflamed, or feels uncomfortable, it can be more than just a reaction to the environment. In Buddhist thought, the body reflects the energy of the mind. If you're constantly feeling exposed, judged, criticized, or if you've let others cross emotional boundaries, you may see that stress and imbalance rise to the surface of your skin. Think of it this way. If your soul is crying out for safety, for space, for gentleness, your skin may be the first to speak. What's powerful is that these symptoms aren't a curse. They're a compassionate signal. The universe isn't attacking you. Your karma isn't punishing you. It's trying to help you come home to yourself. Healing from this lens doesn't start with a prescription. It starts with perception. How do you see yourself? When was the last time you truly accepted who you are, flaws and all, without apology or comparison? This isn't about vanity or perfection, it's about peace. The more you soften your gaze toward yourself, the more your body reflects that ease. Your skin clears when you stop fighting who you are. Your vision sharpens when you stop running from what's real. All of this, dear one, is not about fear. It is about remembering. Your body is not punishing you. It is inviting you to listen, to slow down, to come home. The Buddha taught that suffering is a doorway, not an end, but a path. And your body is that doorway. Every pulse, every sensation, every ache, it is karma asking to be seen, not judged. You are not broken, you are becoming. Healing begins when we ask, what in me is calling for love? To truly heal is not just to take care of your diet or stretch in the morning. It is to live with truth, to forgive where there is hurt, to walk with compassion and act with intention. Your body listens to more than food, it listens to your soul. When we align with integrity, serve others with a pure heart and stop hiding from our wounds, the body softens. Karma releases. Pain transforms. If something inside you stirred during this reflection, listen to it. Sit with it. Write about it. Begin the healing. Share this with someone whose body might be speaking too. Comment below. What part of your body is calling to you right now? Thank you for being part of Buddhist journey. And if you wish to continue walking this path of awakening and compassion, subscribe for more reflections. May your body become your greatest teacher. May your karma guide you with gentleness, and may your healing be whole, holy, and truly yours.